The next question is a question that is based on one sutta, one discourse of the Buddha. And I'm very glad that this question came in because we can explore directly his words. I am making comments from what I have heard from the teachers, read from the scriptures. But now we will go directly to what he said and how skillful he is he was as a teacher. You will see, focus on his ability to teach. You will see in this question that came. So we can have the question in screen. This question refers to a sutta that we can find in the Samyutta Nikaya 1.1, and is the discourse that is called Crossing Over the Flood. And the question is, what does this sutta, what does this teaching mean in the context of meditation technique? I take the question to be, how can we apply the wisdom contained in this discourse, what the Buddha taught here, how can we apply it in our practice, isn't it? For our meditation, for our daily contemplation. So first I need to say what the Buddha said. So let's go and explore. One time, a deva came to the Buddha and asked him, "Dear sir, venerable sir, how did you cross the flood?" That was the question. And then the Buddha answered the following. The Buddha said, when I came to a standstill, friend, then I sank. But when I struggled, then I got swept away. It is in this way, dear friend, by not holding and by not standing still, I crossed the flood. So that's what the Buddha said. And here comes the interesting part. It sounds a little bit, how to do this? And it's very normal that, and I'm very happy that the question came because we will uncover something that is happening behind. It sounds a bit cryptic. The Buddha says, if I stand still, I sank. If I struggle, then I was swept away. By not holding and by not straining or pushing, I crossed the flood. Now, it is very normal. I also got the same question when I read the sutta. I say, why? This is a little bit not understanding. But here comes the secret, my dear family. When the deva arrived to the Buddha discovered that deva was very conceited, had pride, and was having some arrogance. So the Buddha, having the wisdom that he has, and as we know, when any of us or when any person is dwelling in arrogance, the cup is full. Even if you put your most precious tea, if the cup is full, everything is going to be spilled because that person knows everything, understands everything. So whatever wisdom you put on, whenever pride is on, even the most precious wisdom will be wasted because that cup is full. So the Buddha recognized that, and he knew that he needed to fix that first. Look at the skillfulness. I'm always amazed by the skillfulness as a teacher of the Buddha. So what he does, he gives his answer not very clearly. He's answering actually, but he gives like a riddle kind of. He gives like a little encrypted the answer. And then that very action that the Buddha gives generates confusion in the deva because clearly didn't understand. And then the deva is forced to say, "Excuse me, sir, can you please clarify what you just said?" When we humble in that way, that brought humility to the deva. And that's why it's very understandable. Thank you for the question, because it's a wonderful thing that we can learn and explore all together. We can see that first, with conceit, we will never learn anything. And by breaking that conceit, now the soil is ready to plant the seeds. So then the mind needed, the Buddha needed to fix that and then broke it. Then the deva humbled himself for clarification. And then the mind of the deva was soft, pliable, and workable. Now the Buddha could do something. Okay, so let's go on the sutta. How can we apply this? And there are a few things that we must know what they mean. So what is a flood? What was the Buddha referring when he said flood? The word that is used in Pali is called Ogha. Ogha, and there are 4 kinds of floods, 4 kinds of Oghas. Or we can say there is one flood, the flood of samsara. We are stuck in this flood, or also the flood that is the floods, the 4 kinds of floods that can sweep us away to lower realms. So in the descriptions, in other, not in this sutta, but in other teachings that the Buddha gave, for example, one is in the Samyutta Nikaya 45, 176. You can find some more information about it. We can see that the description of the 4 floods are the following. There is the flood of sensuality, kamoga, sorry. This flood of sensuality is all kind of desire, all kind of lust, especially for the 5 chords of sensual pleasure, for seeing beautiful things, listening beautiful sounds, smelling beautiful smells, tastes, body sensations, and even thoughts. So that is the first thing that sweeps away our mind from stability to instability, from wholesome to unwholesome, generates attachment, can even generate addiction, etc., etc. So that is the first flood, and is running in the world. The second flood is the flood of existence, bhavoga, or the flood, the desire or lust a person might develop to reborn in a higher plane of existence, as a deva, as a brahma, or having good condition, etc., etc. Attachment to jhanas. If we are attached, even they are good things, but if we get attached, attachment will destroy the stability of the mind. That is the second flood. The third flood, the third thing that can sweep us away to even to lower realms or keep us in the flood of samsara, is dittoga, or the flood or attachment to our views, especially to our wrong views. Thinking that things are permanent and will not change. I am this one and I don't change, which is totally non-factual. Or other people also don't change, but everything changes. Things change, everything change. So thinking that things are permanent, one wrong view. Another one, which one of the big ones, we're thinking that the world will bring lasting satisfaction. If things are changing, how can they satisfactory? They arise and cease, and we must understand this and make peace with it. It's fine. We know it, so we use them respectfully as we have them. But when it is time to go, we don't suffer because of it. We know already. So attachment to views is the other one, or to the view of a self or of an entity that doesn't change and is directing the whole show. And the last flood, the fourth one, is the flood of ignorance, aviyoga. And that one is a bit deeper, is the lack of knowledge regarding the 4 noble truths. Understanding that in this realm that we are now, in this human realm, suffering exists, yes? Sometimes we hit our feet with the table and it hurts, pain exists, pain exists, sickness exists, loss exists also. We must understand it, know the cause, the reason, make peace with it, and then release the attachment, which is the cause for that suffering, and then eventually liberate. So that are the floods. When the Buddha says, when the Deva comes and says, how did you close the flood? He was referring to the flood of samsara, to the flood that brings, the floods that brings us down. In short, the flood of sensuality, attachment to higher existence, attachment to our wrong views, the flood of wrong views, and the flood of ignorance. Then I will repeat the words of the Buddha to see what was his answer. He said, when I came to a standstill, friend, then I sank. But when I struggle, then I got swept away. It is in this way, friend, that by not halting and by not struggling, I crossed the flood. So here, in brief, we can see that the Buddha is referring to the middle way. Not too much on the stopping, not too soft that we fall asleep, not too agitated that we cannot meditate. So that means in the middle, we need to be energetic, but joyful and mindful. With joy, stability. If we stop too much, if we get too relaxed, we start falling asleep as we are meditating, the mind is not being cultivated. If we think too much, even about wisdom, the mind gets restless and is already swept away. So the Buddha is referring to a middle way between halting and rushing away with the mind. And in other words, also, he's referring to the Noble Eightfold Path, to know how to balance what we just explored previously, Sila, Samadhi, and Panya. This is also implications that we can find in this balance, this middle way that he is referring. Now, in terms of halting and straining or putting too much effort and getting agitated, we can understand it in this way, going into more detail. When we halt is when we get caught in the defilements. Also, we can get caught halting on desire. It's very sticky and our mind is obsessively thinking about something. And when we are straining or are getting agitated, our volitional formations, the activity of the mind gets too restless and goes away. So craving and wrong views, with craving and wrong views, we sink. And with the other defilements like anger, we are swept away. Another way to understand, slackness and laziness, we sink. Restlessness, the mind is all over the place. So in this case, referring to the question, how can we use this teaching? What does it mean? And how can we use this teaching for our practice, on our meditation technique? The call will be to be very alert on our mind not getting too steady that it falls asleep or too agitated. And to do so, we can also use the 7 factors of enlightenment, with, as you know, awareness is the one who knows, is the mind too calm, so it's falling asleep, or is the mind too agitated? So we have a balance between both. If the mind is too calm, we bring investigation, we bring joy, and a bit of effort. If awareness knows that the mind is too agitated, then we bring tranquility, concentration, and equanimity. So that is the middle way. That will be the way we can apply to our practice by not getting caught on defilements, 1, and making a balance between peace and mental activity using the 7 factors of enlightenment. So that can be another another thing to explore. That's a big topic. We are talking about big topics, but from this sutta, I think we can take this wisdom and also understanding how the Buddha saw it's normal not to understand this teaching, because it was designed to be a bit confusing, to break the conceit that the Deva was showing. Lastly, my dear family, I would like to say that many of the things that we just explored, you don't find them in the sutta itself, but you find them in the commentaries. So I would encourage everybody that, although we know that's why they're called commentaries. Yes, it's not direct words of the Buddha, but I would say that they were done by very skillful teachers that have a deep understanding of all the scriptures, and they could make these relations between few suttas and teachings. So I would say that I don't discard them. And the attitude of Bhante Ariya Dhammika here in the monastery, he also considers them valuable, because many of these details, without them, they will disappear. So based on the explorations of the teachers, I think I think of them as a treasure, but we know what they are. Yes, they are commentaries on the Buddha's words, but very often without them, very difficult to understand something. So anyway, I will say keep them aside, know what they are, and let's make best use of it. Good. So that question, I think, is covered. Let's take a little pause, everybody. Oh, let me check the time. Going good? Everybody okay? Everybody okay? Going good? They were going good? Let me see your faces. How is it going? Good, good. Looks, smiles, thumbs up and things. So it feels good.